to InFocus. I'm Lujia Lin. Our guest this week is Scott Stevens, an associate professor of fire science and the co-director of the UC Center for Fire Research and Outreach here at Berkeley. Last month, Professor Stevens co-authored a paper on the Australia wildfires entitled Urban Wildland Fires, How California and Other Regions of the U.S. Can Learn from Australia. So, Professor Stevens, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so I'd like to start off by talking about one of the main ideas of your paper, which was the Australian Prepare, Stay, and Defend or Leave Early policy. So what exactly is this policy?
Well, the policy has evolved over a number of years in Australia. They really have had a similar fire experience as us in terms of really damaging fires that have caused loss of life, loss of property for many, many, many years. So one thing that they did do is they started to think about how they might change their policy, how they might get maybe more the public and the homeowners associated, and that really began the Prepare, Stay, Defend, or Leave Early policy.
So in contrast, what is the current approach used in California, and how does that compare to the Australian policy?
Yeah, the current approach in California is primarily one where a fire is detected. Certainly suppression is put on it as fast as possible. If the fire looks like it's going to get away or in bad conditions, there's going to be an anticipation of the fire, so some prediction as to where the fire may go, and then mandatory evacuations are ordered in that area. People try to get them out efficiently, bring in the fire services, try to suppress the fire, and then be done when the fire is out.
I'd like to focus on maybe the differences between Australia and California in terms of topography, in terms of climate. So what are those differences and what needs to be considered should this policy be implemented here?
Well, there are some differences. We had the Australians over here probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and we brought them around the Berkeley Hills and different parts of California. And one thing they said is, you know, the topography, your vegetation, really somewhat similar to what we see. Certainly there's some variety. The one thing the Australians said that we're so different is the way we build. When they looked at our houses and our landscapes in these areas, they thought that they were basically horrendous. And they compared that was the one thing that just jumped out at them. The built environment in California is so poorly planned from a fire perspective, and a lot of actually materials and other things that are actually part of the houses. You don't see that in Australia at all. So that's the thing that jumped out at them.
Okay, so in fall 2007, 3 counties in Southern California were devastated by wildfires. Do you believe that if we had implemented a Prepare, Stay, and Defend policy, that might have reduced that property damage?
I do. I think it would have, especially the Prepare. That's the part sometimes we get a discussion of like stay and defend or leave, but the Prepare is so important. I call it the paramount. So if we did have that component alone, more sustainability, the way we build, the way we actually try to maybe remove vegetation, building materials we sit, where their houses are located or not, that alone would have made a difference in the 2007 fires.
And should this policy actually be implemented in California, for it to work, what should policymakers and homemakers do? What steps should they take?
This is a great question, and I think actually for it to happen in California, I think we have to have some state leadership on it. And there actually are some counties like Ventura and others that are thinking about this idea and wondering and thinking about should we introduce it, should we actually begin a discussion. And I think that some of the counties could do that, but I think that the state comes in, it puts in some sort of umbrella to have a discussion on it, maybe allow people to engage it, and then also, if they want to, begin the simulation or kind of the training that's required. So that's why I think the state needs to lead on this, because it needs to be a hierarchy where you have this disseminated information coming down that you could then help engage communities that want to, but not have everybody try to do it independently. I'm afraid that could cause havoc.
Okay, Professor Stevens, thank you so much for this interview.
It's my pleasure.